video. So I'm gonna try to do this video as quick as I can without it getting too lengthy. I've been seeing a lot of videos lately about the pentatonic scale. Easy ways to learn it, the cheats, the cheats, the tips, the tricks. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's no easy way to learn the pentatonic scales, the 5 positions. You literally have to grind it out. There's no other way around it. You have to put in the work to figure it out. There's no cheats. There's nothing that's going to take you from 0 to 100 because you learned this magic thing. You're going to have to go through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 100. But there are things that may help you get from point A to point D. This is how I learned it, and this is how I would teach my students how to learn it. All right, so we're going to do this in A minor pentatonic, which is the most taught pentatonic position in all of YouTube. And you should know it by now. 5/8, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 5/8. All right. Well, the trick to learning this, in my opinion, this is how I would teach my students, is to find the boxes at the root. All right. This is what I'm talking about. On string 4 and 3, in the first position, find this box, 5/7, 5/7, and that's your root, that's your A, right here, okay? Once you find that, that is your primer to figuring out the rest of the pentatonic positions, okay? Now, I call this a 1 because it is one full note apart, one full step. Here's a half step, here's another half step. So I call that a 1 because it's one full step apart. Everything else I call a 1.5 because it is 1.5 steps apart. 1.5 steps apart. All right, that's going to be critical. That's going to be very important in this. So what I do is when I would teach people, my students, I just got through teaching one of my students Moonlight Sonata, and he's looking at the music and he's like, oh my God, there's a billion notes in here. And I'm like, you're right, there is a billion notes, but don't look at it that way because that can become overwhelming because Moonlight Sonata is an incredibly long piece. So what you need to do is look at the notes that are being arpeggiated and break them down into chords. They're going to be chords in the root position, first position, and second position. Then once you break it down to the chords, generally, for the most part of that song, those chords are played 4 times, arpeggiated up. And if you start breaking it down that way, then it's so much easier to comprehend the song and easier to learn. Kind of the same premise here. If we start breaking this down in this group of 4, find that group of 4 in all 5 positions. So here's 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, position 5, which also happens to be right here, position 5. All right. Once you find that, root, 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 then we come up here, root, root. Once you find that, that is your primer to figure the rest of it out because it follows a pattern. Just like Moonlight Sonata, there was a pattern, everything arpeggiated up. Find the chords, follow the pattern. Same thing here. Find the box, follow the pattern. All right, all these positions, okay, have 4 1s, which is this, and 2 1.5s, except position 1 and position 3, I believe, position 3. Pretty sure that's right. We'll find out when we get there. Position 3. So what do I mean by that? So if we find our box, the one directly under this is a 1.5. It can't be anything else but a 1.5. If we go back to position 5, it's a 1.5. Can't be anything else. If we go to position 2, well, we're out of strings, so we can't go any further on that particular one right now. If we go to position 3, 1.5. That's all it can be. Position 4, 1.5, that's all it can be. Position 5, 1.5, that's all it can be. It can't be anything else but that because that's how the pentatonic scale works, all right? So if we take it one step further and we keep following the pattern, the one directly under the 1.5, providing we have enough strings and providing we start on this box with our root, is going to be another 1.5. All right, so we have 1, 1, 1.5, 1.5. That's all it can be. If we go back to position 5, 1, 1, 1.5, 1.5. That's all it can be. If we go to position 2, we're out of strings, so we'll come back to that one. If we go position 3, 1, 1, 1 and a half, 1 and a half. That's all it can be. We go to position 4, 1, 1, 1 and a half, and then we're out of strings as far as we can go. But if we go back up to position 5, 1, 1, 1 and a half, 1 and a half. Now, just from that, right there, just from that, you've learned 90% of the pentatonic scale in all the positions, just from that, all right? Well, how do you figure? There's still a lot of strings we didn't cover. That is true. But keep this in mind. Whatever you play on this string is the same exact thing on this string. And whatever you play on this string is the same exact thing on this string. All right? So if we go back to position 1 and we know we have our box, and it's 2 1s, then 2 1 and a halves, well, we know this, E, is the same thing as this. Same exact thing. So that leaves us 1 to figure out. We only have 1 string to figure out, which is this. And how do we know it's this? Well, keep this in mind. All of them have 4 1s and 2 1 and a halves, except for 1 and 3. It's position 4. I'm sorry, I was saying 3. Position 4. Let's get that cleared up real quick. So position 1 and position 4 have 3 1 and a halves and 3 1s. Position 2, 3, and 5 have 4 1s and 2 1 and a halves. All right? So if we go up to position 4, and we know our boxes, it's right here. We know the one below that is a 1 4 from 12 to 15. So we know that this one has to be a 1 4 from 12 to 15. These things we know already. And remember what I said, this is the only other one that has 3 1 and a halves. All the other 3 are 1s. So we know we have 2 1s here, which means we're going to have a 1 right above it. Which means these have to be 1 and a halves. And those are our 3 1 and a halves. All right? So when we go up to position 5, which is here and here, we have 2 1 and a halves, and this is our box. So we know the 2 below it, we have 2 1s, I'm sorry. So we know the 2 below it have to be 1 and a halves. They can't be anything but that. We have a shift backwards because all these, when we go to the 1 and a halves, they all shift backwards except for in the first position. All right? And now we know since 1 and 4 are the only ones that have 3 1 and a halves, the other 2 have to be 1s. And that's all the positions of the pentatonic scale. Well, let's jump back to position 2 for a second, because remember we have these strings here, and we kind of just run out. And if you remember what I said and keep track of the patterns, okay, we know this one ends, step 1, box 1 ends on 8 7 7 7 8 8, because it has 3 1 and a halves and 3 1s. So that means position 2 has to start on 8 7 7 7 8 8. So with that in mind, keep this in mind, we have our box, we know we have 2 1s. And we know since we have our box here, the one above it is a 1 step. But we have to shift backwards because of the variance between the B and the G string, strings 2 and 3. So that means the other ones have to be 1 and a half steps. And it can only be 2 because they all have 2 except for position 1 and position 4. Those are the only ones that have 3. So if you start thinking about it in groups of patterns, I think it will help you learn it much, much faster. So with that knowledge that hopefully you now have, so let's go ahead and play all 5 positions. All right, here's our box. So we know our box and we've learned the positions. So for this one, position 1, it is this. It's a 1 and a half, 3 1s, 2 1 and a halves. So when we go to position 2, we know we have a 1 here because we're coming off of a 1 and a half on the same string. And we know we have our box right here, and we know the one directly above the box is a 1. So that means our 1 and a halves can only be right there. So this scale is, can't be anything else but that. So let's go to the next position, position 3. We find our box. Okay, so we know the one above it has to be a 1. And we know the one below it, the next 2 below it have to be a 1 and a half. We have a shift because of the B string. And since it only has 2 1 and a halves, because they all have 2 except for 1 and 4, it has to be a 1 step. So that means this particular one, here's our box, it has to be this. Can't be anything else but that. Let's move up to position 4. Here's our box. We know the one below it is a 1-4, so that means this one has to be a 1-4. And since we have our box, we know the one above it is a 1-step. So that means this one has to be a 1-4 because it's the only other one that has 3 1.5 steps. So the scale is. So moving up to position 5, okay? Here's our box. So we know the one below this has to be a 1.5. The one below it has to be 1.5. It can't be anything else but a 1.5 step. And since only box 1 and 4 have 3 1.5 steps, well, we've played 2. So that means the next 2 must be 1 steps. It can't be anything else. And then it goes on, and then we're back to position 1 again. And then we go to position 2, position 3, so on. Here's 1, we go back to 5, then we move on to 4. And that is how I would teach my students how to play the pentatonic scale. And what you need to do is after you figure these out, don't worry about tying everything together just yet, because that will come. What you need to do is just sit here and play through the pentatonic scale, because you've got to get it in your head. You don't have to burn through it. Just sit here and play through it. And just play through all the positions as you move through. And then before you know it, you're going to start tying them together, and then you're going to start seeing other patterns inside of the patterns. What do I mean? Like this. You'll start to see those patterns emerge. And the nice thing about this is the beauty of guitar, is this works for every pentatonic scale. If you play in the E position of pentatonic, the E minor, A minor's here. Well, E's here. But it works exactly the same. This now becomes position 1. If we went back to position 5, in E minor, it's the same here as position 5 in A minor. It all works the same, and that's the beauty of guitar, is these scalar patterns repeat for every single key. Unlike a piano, to where they change for every single key, on a guitar, they're all repeatable. If you play an A major major scale, well, if we play it in B major, it's the same exact thing. And that's the beauty of guitar. And hopefully that will help you learn the 5 positions of the pentatonic scale. Excuse the dogs. Hopefully that'll help you learn the 5 positions of the pentatonic scale. And like I said, once you understand the patterns and you wrap your head around it, it's actually not that hard. And that's how I learned it. That's how I teach my students to learn it. And it seems to work pretty good. So give that a try. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment and let me know if this worked for you, if it didn't work for you, or if you have a different pattern or a different procedure which worked better for you, by all means let me know about it, because I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. And believe it or not, a lot of people leave me comments and I'm like, shit, I never thought about that. So I learned just as much from everybody else as hopefully they learned from me. So I'm gonna wrap this video up right there. That is my how to learn the pentatonic scale, the 5 positions. And like I said, you have to grind them out. There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts in playing guitar. You have to do the work. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it in the comments and questions section of the thing. Please subscribe, please like, please share the video, because that really does help my algorithm. And I do have to say this really quick. Out of all the people who watch my channel, 5% are subscribed. That is pathetically bad. 5%. I watched Nerdrotic's video. 60% of the people who watch his channel are subscribed. I have 5%. So if you watch the video and you feel like you've learned something, please subscribe. If you didn't learn something and you just want to call me bad names, I'm fine with that too. Subscribe anyway. So catch you in the next video.